on the international stage. Happy Women's Day to all of you. I am back. I want to proceed from where we left off last few days ago. I think it's been 2 days since my last video. I am going to speak on several different topics, but I'm also going to expound on the Museveni project to Museveni and Kagame still continuing to plan about attacking South Sudan. Many of you have noticed the UN Commission's report today. The U.S. Commission's report actually came out yesterday that ties or links Museveni and Kagame directly to the recent killings in Sudan. That was last year. And you wonder why everything is now pulling together and in the public eye. Museveni knows more than anyone that this is definitely something's chasing him. And so with that report from the UN Human Rights Council, they tie Museveni to a massacre in South Sudan when he supports Salva Kiir. In fact, Muhoozi tweeted about these instances where, I'm going to quote Muhoozi saying, he's tired of killing Nuer people. Tell the leader Riek Machar to come and kneel down before Salva Kiir. So this clearly, and this tweet was on March 23rd, 2025, last year, about this time. So it's about a year old, where Muhoozi comes out and says, you know, he's tired of killing Nuer and he would like Riek Machar to come and kneel down before Salva Kiir. As you know, I mentioned that the massacre that is planned for parts of northern Uganda, parts of South Sudan, and parts of Congo, where the Musevenis and Kagames would like to cut off a piece of that land and make their own republic, or an area that's theirs, where they'll create a monarchy or a government of their own. This ties to that because obviously you see that Salva Kiir is part of, I don't know if I can show you, but there's I posted it on my page also. So in case you don't see it, go to my Facebook page. You'll see the tweets from Muhoozi. These were taken right out of this context and was used also to incriminate Muhoozi and tie to his father about what they've done in South Sudan, because in this tweet, he admits action or being part of what they did in South Sudan. The other tweet, Muhoozi says, Dr. Riek Machar is going to kneel down in front of my father, in front of Afande Salva. I will keep him, I'll help him with that. So that means, you know, he'll find a way to bring Riek Machar to his knees before Salva Kiir, who is currently the Sudanese president, South Sudanese president. And he also says he wants 1,000 cows from the Nuer people. He says, if the Nuer elders were wise enough to give me 1,000 cows, I would stop attacking them. So please go ahead and tweet this or share this, tag the UN, tag whatever you'd like to tag, because in their commission, in their reports, these people are directly linked. You know, Muhoozi, like all the other dictators, has helped his father definitely fail or lose his government. And I think he's quite on a quick trip to that. You know, you can compare to presidents like the one from Libya, Gaddafi. His son was untouchable. His son did everything possible. It's on record that his children, the most big-headed, obviously, helped drive their father to failure. There was a meeting that was concluded recently between Kagame, State House, the Security Council in Uganda, where they reaffirmed that they're going to take action on those plans that they have for South Sudan. In those details where they want to cut off part of South Sudan, part of Uganda, and part of Congo to make their own republic, they say that it's going to be a worse genocide, worse killing than Rwanda's 1994 genocide that is documented very, very well. And both parts of northern Uganda and Sudan that border is going to be closed. So my people in northern Uganda, when you see that the Nimule border is closed, just brace yourselves because it's coming down. That's one of the signs that's going to show that Museveni's attacks or what they've planned for that region is then starting to take place. Not to say that it's not happening right now, because they're already killing a lot of people in South Sudan. And the fact that this commission has come out, just imagine how much more is being hidden and not talked about. So be very, very, very watchful for people who live around that area. Ugandans living in South Sudan, I think it's time to exit and try to find other avenues to do business. Many of you go there saying you're going to do business, but I don't know if it's worth it. So their plan is to kill at least 5 million people in South Sudan. Okay? 5 million people they want to kill and clear that land in South Sudan. Part of it, they're going to come down and clear northern Uganda. Acholi people who have already been through 20 years of Museveni war, hoodwinked as the LRA war. Yet again, the Acholi people will experience war by Museveni on the nationals, natural Ugandans from northern Uganda will yet again face a war. And this time they said they're going to kill everything alive. Animals, whatever they have, you know. If you remember during the LRA wars, you know, Acholi were really mistreated. They were captured. They were taken into camps. They were put in camps. Many of them were slaughtered. Some of them humiliated to the extent that they were cooked and had family members eat the dead bodies or the whatever they've cooked of these people. So Acholi, northern Uganda, I will do another video about this. Brace yourselves, tell one another, prepare yourselves. If possible, when you start seeing these signs, do something about it. Document, document, document. I cannot say that enough. Share with people out here. Share with me, because I can get that information where it needs to be. Share and send videos when this starts to happen. So part of that is Museveni is trying to get international organizations to continue to give him aid and money. You know, his government is so broke. He cannot continue to run the government like he used to. Because before Museveni was figured out, he would start a war and then pretend to be the one going to rescue. And then the Western world, instead of getting involved, would just dish him the funds to go and try to calm down that war. But intentionally, that money would be used for his own purposes. You know, it doesn't make sense why Museveni would try to buy people like the opposition with billions of dollars of shillings, billions of shillings. Imagine the Kasukus just went to the State House to try to get money. Even if he promised them that much, I don't believe that's going to come down the pipeline, indeed, to them. You know, it's just his own survival mode. He knows that any time from now, because they failed to occupy Congo, you know, everything has come out. There's a severe link of Museveni to M23, which even if they've started with Kagame, Museveni knows it's coming for him. Okay, and like I said earlier, the people who are going to be involved in South Sudan or in this massacre of South Sudan, northern Uganda, and the part of Congo that is linked to that area are the M23 people who were discovered by the U.S. to be linked to Kagame, and obviously now Kagame says they're tied to Uganda, not from Rwanda. So somehow, Kagame or Museveni, one of the two is going to take down each other, because in survival mode, you try to save yourself first. You know, there's a reason why in airplanes, when you're about to take off, the flight attendant comes onto the microphone and says, you know, if something goes wrong, if, let's say, we must make an emergency landing or something like that, put your oxygen mask on first before you put on for somebody else, because you can't give what you don't have. Kagame is in a mode whereby he must rescue or save himself, despite the fact that they're in relations or somehow are friendly with Museveni. It's about time, because the eyes and microscopes are all focused on him right now. He's also trying to pawn it off on somebody else so he can get some relief. So he has already recorded on microphone, where he says M23 are from Uganda, which means, just like we know that Museveni was the one sustaining M23 in Congo, in the forests. In fact, food that was sent for the for the Ugandan army, UPDF, was also sent in the forest where they live where the M23 operated or lived. The same food that was sent by Uganda Airlines. So, my phone went up there a little bit. In every occurrence, however bad as it could be, even the LRA war or the people who experienced the genocides in 1994, even the plane crash that came out of Bangladesh recently, there was a gentleman who survived, scotch-free. And he lives to tell everything that happened, or however things happened, as much as he can remember. So as much as people were killed in Congo, or there's so many M23s that have gone through the hands of the Kagames and the trainings and so on and so forth, there is always people who escaped and are able to tell these stories as well as they used to exist. So many people have run away, escaped, gone into different countries, and are now speaking. You know, when the UN Council comes up with a report like this, it's not out of nowhere. It's because they have the resources and they've gotten every fact possible to back whatever they're claiming or saying has happened. So several M23 defectors actually have been able to speak and given the proper report. Despite the fact that they tried to kill, or they did kill, 3 of the main operatives of the M23, there's some who have survived and gotten away and are able to tell these stories quite clearly. Okay, so they're still operational in South Sudan. You know, South Sudan being a country is literally run by Museveni. In the video that was posted by the UN about the atrocities that have been happening there, you can see the UPDF badges on the uniforms that the men are wearing. So even if they deny it, the aircrafts are Ugandan. Okay, the airspaces, there's drones or things that can detect who's moving where. The people on the ground, the army, the trucks, you can tell that they're Ugandan. So they can deny all they want. Obviously, the son from somewhere is speaking and telling all kinds of things. He thinks he's bragging, but now we're able to link the two and tie them together. Okay. So the President Salva Kiir is in this thing where Museveni is going to attack Uganda and South Sudan. He has given up. He has given his people up to be destroyed by Museveni, and that's what Museveni and the Kagames want. Because they can't get Congo, they now want to come and get this area of northern Uganda, South Sudan, and part of Congo. So tweet that, share that with the international community, because they're insisting that this must happen. They're going to start from as far as Nakasongola. Okay, so it's not so much of entirely northern Uganda only. They actually are cutting off all the way from Nakasongola. Many of you that have known the geography of that area very well, there is actually a tunnel that is from Karuma that goes all the way to South Sudan. That's how they've been doing certain things or transporting certain things, because South Sudan has lots of of gold, lots of oil. The Museveni people, you know, they don't go to a place where they don't get anything. So because they have all these resources, they're trying to take from there. That tunnel from the Karuma was built by Chinese people. That no wonder Museveni is always in defense of the Chinese, this, that, and the other. That tunnel exists from the Karuma dams or the Karuma Falls all the way to South Sudan. So don't be surprised, because Nakasongola is not very far from the region of northern Uganda. In their efforts to create this kingdom or this part of the country that they want to call their own country, they are going to kill all the inhabitants, everybody, to be able to create that land. In fact, there's documentation that a lot of South Sudanese animals or cows or cattle are disappearing. Same thing happened in northern Uganda. They lost just about every animal. Even if Museveni, claims he's going to compensate them for the losses, he's not. Museveni is the right hand and the left hand. He took the cattle purposely, and that's why his people, the Rwandese people, now own almost 90% of all the cattle in Uganda, because they took it from the people, because when they came, they were refugees with nothing. Okay, so keep your eyes open. In the process of their efforts to try to take part of that region, Museveni has already officially created 5 new rebel groups in South Sudan. Okay, there are 5. Tweet this, share this as much as possible, so that the UN Council, the Human Rights Commission, that's trying to figure out who's doing what in South Sudan. Museveni has already created 5 rebel groups in South Sudan. And they're going to occupy that land to form their own country. This is the effort continuing about tearing part of South Sudan and part of Uganda. They asked Tumukunde to be the one to command that mission, but apparently Tumukunde is struggling with poison in his body. As you know, these people, if you read the Animal Farm, these people are going to fight each other from within because Museveni is trying to eliminate evidence. So are the people that are involved in this government. Somehow Kagame is going to take down Museveni, or Museveni is going to take down Kagame. Same thing with their officials and this and that. It's become a situation where they don't trust each other. They try as much as possible to try to stay on the right side of history, but there's no way, and they know it, that they're not going to survive this. Rwandan generals, as you know, have been given sanctions. In fact, I learned today that Kagame's family himself all their visas have been banned. They can no longer travel to the U.S. and other of the Western countries because, as you know, one country puts a sanction, all of the Western world will follow, instead of having each one do their own thing. So, that is it about the South Sudan part of the podcast today. The next thing is what I was talking about, the border thing that they're trying to do. I wanted to also mention a few other details that they're also going to try to close. So Kagame and Museveni are going to try to act as if they're enemies. Kagame will close the border of Uganda to Rwanda, just so that they can redirect attention away from each other. In the process, in the background, they're going to be continuing with their plans to try to take over that part of the region, the Sudan, the Congo, and part of Uganda. This is just to hoodwink the East Africa and the entire globe from knowing what they're doing in the background. They are going to try to act as enemies. I think they did this maybe a year or two ago, where Museveni and Kagame pretended to be fighting each other. Okay? And they used the ADF and all that in between the borders to try to pretend like they're fighting so that we lose focus and try to look elsewhere instead of the focus being on them. So with those closed, Tanzania-Rwanda border will be closed. Uganda-Rwanda border will also be closed in the process of continuing with the war in South Sudan in pretense to try to distort all the facts and try to keep focus on other things other than them. There will be movement that will be stopped between the regions. For example, Tanzania, Uganda movement, Sudan, Nimule, Sudan, Uganda, or Sudan, Congo. They're going to stop movement because they don't want news to come out of the region about what they're doing while they're killing those people. They're going to clear every human available in that region. Okay, they want to occupy that region and call it their federal government or their monarchy or whatever they want to do, because they can't survive anywhere else. And they're trying very, very hard to do this as fast as possible because they're both disappointed that they did not hurry up with the Congo area and try to cut off that area called, was it Gomba? I think that's what it's called. The area they tried to cut off from Congo that took so long and they ended up losing. So they're going to hurry up and continue doing this. They will close the Nimule border. The Nimule border is the one that separates northern Uganda and part of South Sudan. They will close that as they continue doing their operations. Museveni wants a bargaining chip with America. You know, every war that had been started in the region, somehow he was contacted by the U.S. to be able to just, finish it and do what they do with it and be done with it. This time, he has tried to get involved with the Iran war. Obviously, he tried to call the ambassador, but the ambassador said, this is not a guerrilla war. This is not a war on land. This is missiles and tech and superheroes or superpowers fighting each other. So it's not what you're used to, like you do in Somalia and everywhere else. And even then, the rest of the world has discovered what really Museveni is. They wouldn't trust him anymore with any of these big major events that are going on. But even in Iraq, he sent people. Even during the other wars, he did. and that's because he wasn't in their good books, but not anymore because he's been exposed quite a bit. Okay, and they've ignored him fully from trying to get in that. Museveni is ashamed of being rejected by the U.S. and his involvement and everything is being ignored. He has not been recognized. He feels like Trump or the President of the United States is really not on his side, because it used to be that Museveni was praised heavily for being a peacekeeper in the region, for being somebody who can be used if there's war somewhere, like in Sudan, in Somalia. He was there for many, many, many years. Soldiers who are part of that war will tell you that, you know, all of the reasons that they were sent there were all the wrong reasons. They were used to fight wars that they didn't even have to fight. They were, even when they were paid, they were supposed to be paid certain amounts. They never got what they were supposed to be paid. Wazalendo is a whole different can of worms, you know. All the money that was paid for those wars to Museveni government was used by him and his people instead of being used or paid to the soldiers. So the soldiers who went out on those high ticket items never got the pay that they deserved. So there's a lot of proof out there for those who have defected and have a lot to say about what happened during that. So Museveni expects to continue by trying to get on the good graces with the U.S., but it is not working. And he's struggling with that because he needs some kind of aid. Sorry about that. Something happened. He's also very fearful that any time now he could be removed from power. He suspects the Maduro incident to happen to him. And if not, he knows it's coming somehow. It may be different. And with Bobby Wine still being on the loose, he's super, super scared. He's very, very scared. Everyone now fears to be in office with Museveni, you know, because every time he's meeting with them, he's afraid of who's going to share information. He wonders how we get all of this information, and he's afraid that somehow somebody's leaking this information because he has no secrets anymore. To the extent that he has cousins who he has labeled his own cousins. You know, nobody has heard of Museveni punishing his own people. We have never heard of a Rwandese, you know, going through what Ugandans typically go through. But in all, you know, because he's so afraid of how come all these facts are getting out of the country, he has now garnered all of his fight, his anger towards his family members. And apparently there's 4 cousins that are in target of what he's trying to do to try to reduce the amount of information that is getting out here and there. He has invited all his people, I understand, and is blaming them for trying or leaking information or betraying him because he feels like they're not on his side or working with him. He has invited them and asked them if he does not swear in, what do they expect to happen to them? Because what he believes is that they should pay allegiance to him continuously, but he doesn't feel it because in as much as Museveni was very good about protecting himself, this time around he feels very unsafe. He feels very exposed. He feels like he's worried that some people, even his own family members, are on the side of the enemy, which his enemy at this point is obviously Kyagulanyi Ssentamu and the rest of the world, the Western world especially. Museveni has discussed with government workers and possibly cutting on the responsibilities of those workers or cutting people from offices because he doesn't have the funds to pay them. In fact, several government workers are not going to receive salaries because the national debt is so high and he has a huge debt that he borrowed from China that must get paid in order for China to stay an ally of his. He's worried about, hello, John. Jonna, something is jumping a little bit here. Can you see me? Are you guys there? I think so. I hope so. I hope so. So anyways, he's worried about China reacting to or demanding their debt that he owes them. So he's going to divert all the funds that he would have used to pay government workers' salaries and pay the Chinese debt because he wants to keep Xi Jinping on his side, on his good graces. Otherwise, he's very, very, very concerned. Are you back? Okay, I was on the point of China. So government officials are going to lose out on pay in the next coming month or so, because Museveni has to pay China first, because he doesn't want to lose their alliance or allegiance to him. As you know, he's only left with China and Russia on his side. He used to have an ally in Iran, but now it's questionable because they have other things to focus on right now that is more important probably than himself. Okay. He also says that government workers did not vote for him. You know, it is funny how Museveni uses all these elites, all these educated Mpugas, the lawyers, those people who he thinks they went to school and they're all dressed smart and all that. He uses them to make all of these policies and pass them and all and on. But Museveni knows that these people don't vote. When it comes to time to vote, the people who he's most concerned and worried about are the youth. Okay? It is no wonder his efforts are to try every possible way, using the Damuliras and Kaiuras to try to dehumanize. If you see the types of people that he has on the UN human rights reports, it's mostly the youth who have suffered the most. They're the ones abducted, they're the ones in prisons, they're the ones who he's chasing constantly, trying to arrest. So Museveni knows that these people actually don't vote, and they never voted for him. So he doesn't care if he doesn't pay them or doesn't make enough to pay them. And so they're going to have to face it on their own, to dance to their own music, because he says they don't pay, they don't vote, they sit around and just take money. And they will, this time they're going to try to suffer for what they did during the elections by not voting for him. Okay. Next, we're moving on. There's a lot of intense pressure in the barracks because security alerts are killing him with depression. Museveni is struggling and wondering why all of these alerts are going out. So all the barracks are on standby for any attack or response. Museveni knows that everything that any time from now, something is going to come down to him. Something is going to attack him, okay? So it is the reason why when he travels, Museveni no longer travels in his vehicle. He travels either in the front vehicle or the very last one in the back, because he's afraid that he could easily get attacked, so he's trying to be able to get away from the front or from the back. It is also no wonder that he has an airport that is built in Mbarara, really just for him to be able to escape when the time comes. As you've noticed, when he travels, he now blocks both returning and both roads, going and returning, traffic both ways. He blocks both ways because he wants to make sure nobody is in his way or is going to be able to access him to attack him. Obviously, his forwarded security is SFCs everywhere, just filled up all over the place, because he's very afraid, very scared. This is a big sign to show you that, Uganda is going to achieve change. I want to allude to the fact that when a woman is giving birth, and women can tell you this, and even fathers who have been there going, besides their partner, when it's time to deliver or, baby's about to be born, like they say, darkness before dawn, a lot of things happen, a lot of pain happens, a lot of changes happen. You can experience the worst, and only with expectation that something good is going to happen. It is very, very clear that Museveni is going down. And the fact that he knows it and he's pulling all these moves, these are all signs. His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu said, these are all signs of a dying horse, okay? Their occupancy of his home, their hunt down of him every day, the mistreatment of Ugandans, oppositions in jail and all of that, and everything that's happening to Kagame in Rwanda, everything that's, all of the adjudications that are coming out now from the Muhoozi tweets and this and that, everything that's happening, has happened like never before. If anything, Ugandans, we must be really, really, really hopeful, okay? That this man who used to think he's a small god, now fears to travel, now fears Ugandans who he claims voted for him. This guy used to act like he was untouchable, okay? Museveni would come around and people would just get cold, okay? This time he tries to travel, he doesn't want anybody to even look at him, okay? So I feel, and I hope you feel this with me, that change is coming, The embrace, the warmth is, you can feel it, you can see it, it's coming. And I hope you don't lose hope and feel like there's, change is not coming with you. But stick with this. I feel like it's coming. Okay? All the army and police have been stopped from moving around at night, even in their barracks, because remember I told you last couple of days that he has brought SFCs into the barracks to try to guard the army that is in the military barracks are now guarded by other army, because even he doesn't trust that his own army will protect him when the time comes. Okay? He has lost control of everything. He's very untrusting of everything and everybody. Okay. The other thing is fuel prices are going to go up next week. Like I told you last few days, him and Ruto and Suluhu Kagame have agreed, South Sudan president have agreed that they should heighten the price of fuel. They want it to look uniform, even though this is Museveni's interest to try to get more money in his hands. They have agreed to uniformly increase oil prices, claiming that the war in Iran is causing it. We have sufficient oil, we have sufficient reserves, but obviously he wants to do this so that he can get money in his pocket. Next thing is about Balaam. As you know, Balaam is used by Museveni a lot. He's the minister of something about youth and children. But he's being used quite a bit, and during the campaigns he was given, I understand, a lot of money, about 70 billion Uganda shillings for the campaign, and Museveni feels like he has not even touched that money because none of the efforts that were promised have been delivered. Okay? Opposition is at the highest. His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is nowhere to be found. He can't find him. He can't even get the spies to tell him where he is, despite His Excellency appearing, here and there in Uganda. He expects that money like that should be used to try to fulfill his promises. So anytime now, Balaam is in quite a lot of trouble with Museveni. Anita Among is using her money quite a bit to try to gain a campaign for the speakership position. But you know that it is done. Even if Museveni signed there's a document that he signed to say that he's supporting Anita Among and Tayebwa for speaker and deputy speaker. That is not true. As a mafia, he acts this way and actually means the other way. So despite Anita Among thinking that she's hated actually by the Museveni family. I understand Janet Museveni calls her Mwiru and says that she's the one who started this snowball of issues to the Museveni family. Museveni no longer sleeps well at night. I don't know if you've heard, I think his ASP, Asima Wile, has mentioned that this is something coming from northern Uganda. The late John Aniluwum is buried in a church community somewhere in Mutwini, okay? So Museveni and his cronies are trying to exhume the body of the late John Aniluwum because apparently in his, as he normally lies, he says that the reason they want to exhume the body of the late John Aniluwum or Archbishop John Aniluwum is to try to bring him to a central place where he could be celebrated nationwide and make him a tourist site, make his site where he will be reburied a tourist site. But the truth is that everybody that Museveni has killed, all of those people that he innocently killed, do not allow him to sleep. He's seeing a lot of things. In medicine, they'll call that a mental illness of some sorts. But that is only in conditions where people see things because their mind is unstable and they're not seeing particular people who have lived through their lives. In this case, Museveni is seeing people who he took lives of, including the likes of the John Aniluwums, people who he massacred, people who he killed. John Aniluwum was killed by Museveni during the Amin times, and that is one of the last blows to Amin's government, because when that happened, Idi Amin knew that there's no way he would come out of it, and if he had to go at it with whoever or try to fight the facts, that he would kill a lot of people. So Idi Amin gave up that war and went away to Saudi Arabia just so that he would spare the blood of Ugandans. Museveni was poised to get Ugandans very angry so they can retaliate against Idi Amin because of the killing of John Aniluwum, even though Museveni was the actual perpetrator. Okay, so he's suffering with those people in his dreams. the Kasidia Gwangas, people whom he killed and all that. He's performing a whole lot of rituals. I understand recently he invited a lot of military people in the barracks in Mbuya, and he gave them a bunch of envelopes with money. All that money was already ritualized or had rituals performed on them to transfer these bad dreams or nightmares to those people. But anyway, you know, to whom the bell tolls, right? Next is the rain. Speaking of witchcraft, the rains that continuously are happening in Uganda were warned of Museveni by some of the witch doctors he has visited or have come to see him and try to fortune tell for him. And also, when there's a story that I remember, when there was a pastor who came to Uganda, and she came on a mission to pray for the Museveni family. They did it at Kololo. It was a huge deal. I believe that's the same lady who prays for President Trump. I'm not quite sure, but if you remember her name, I will also post that on my page. One of the fortunes or the future tellings that woman told Natasha in their private meeting during their prayer was that if Museveni ever saw a heavy flood or heavy floods in Uganda, lots of rain, it would mean that it is the end of their government. You know, this is more faith to us. This goes to tell us more about how much faith we should have in our efforts to a new Uganda. Okay, this is more to the reasons we should believe in change. That pastor, the lady, told Natasha in confidence that she saw that the government was going, despite the fact that during the ceremony at Kololo, where Museveni apologized, Janet apologized, and blah blah blah. During that session, that woman went home to Natasha's home, and she can tell you, if Natasha doesn't tell you that she went home with that lady, it'll be a lie. She went home privately, and that woman told her and said, your government has fallen. My suggestion to you is that you take what you have and go someplace else and leave the presidency. But because these people don't listen, it is the reason they're still here and trying to thwart everything that's coming against them. But it is true that Museveni's government is done. Okay? So more proof to the end of their government is the fact that the floods in Kampala do not stop or do not end. Continuously happening. More signs that Museveni government has gone to the dogs. That lady prays for President Trump at the White House. I'm going to get her name and add it there. Okay, so the witch doctors also told Museveni the same thing, that when you see floods, unending floods in Uganda and Kampala, it is a sign to you to pack up your bones or pack up your bags and leave this country. Natasha was caught talking with somebody about the recent Kasuku group that went to the State House. She also added that President Museveni plans on banning social media from Uganda. Basically, he wants to run Uganda like North Korea. After the social media people went to State House, they were given instructions to try to clean up Museveni's name. As soon as they are done, they will be banned from operation in Uganda. So they literally just went and short-circuited themselves, okay? This is how Museveni works. In fact, he doesn't even like these Kasuku people. Museveni has not done anything for Ugandans to benefit Ugandans. The reason why the Kasukus went there and he promised them $5 billion for the social media people or the group or whatever is because he just wants to get his name cleaned. After that, they'll have no job. Okay, it shouldn't surprise you because this is how he operates. Natasha even said that they're not going to receive that $5 billion. The most they will get will be 800,000 shillings, 800 million shillings only, and that will be in installments. Okay, and that's going to be another divide among the bloggers to fight themselves. Some of them will get arrested and limit their usage for the grace period that it'll be on. So anyway, at the time, for the period of time that they will be operating or supporting Museveni or cleaning up his name, they will be getting their funds that were promised to them up to a maximum, a cap of 800 million in bits. So they're not going to get all of it at once. It'll be in bits, and only for that period that they will be doing that work. When that is done, whether they make the 800 million or not, it will be the end of it. Jonah, thank you. It was Paula White. Paula White was the lady who was the pastor who came to Uganda to pray for Museveni and his family. Paula White was the one who told Natasha in private that their government was done, and that if they saw a flood in the city or in Kampala or in Uganda, a heavy flood, it would mean that it is the end and it's washing away whatever they have left called Uganda or the presidency. Okay? Museveni no longer wants to meet people. In fact, he's very fearful. Also, people that used to meet him on a regular basis also no longer want to meet him because he has become very irate. He's very disturbed. He's very scared. He doesn't know who's on his side and who isn't. And so he feels like whoever is coming to meet with him is a spy. And he's irately calling on the police and the military to go and pick up people, and he is officially a dictator and operating as one. They're capturing people all of a sudden to come and explain things that they don't even know about, because he's afraid and worried and labeling people for what they've done, whether they've done it or not. Many officials of the government are in Kasenyi torture chambers because he feels like he needs to pull from them who is doing what, who's telling all of the secrets from State House. So in efforts to do that, many arrests are happening randomly. You don't even have to know what crime you committed or why or when. They just pick you up and you disappear, and that's the end of the story. Okay? I understand Gashumba and Sheila, the daughter, have been under very fearful circumstances lately because they have been in the mafia scene for a while. They've done a few things, and so the Gashumba with his, he talks quite a bit. He's always insulting so and so and the other. He's been in hiding, and some people they're said to be looking for them to try to do something to them. So Sheila Gashumba and her father, they really officially don't have any jobs. All they do is try to promote the activities of the stale government, like organ sales. Internal organ sales are the business that these people are involved in. Yes, Agnes, thank you so much. It is Paula White. That's what Paula White told them, the Museveni people. Okay? I told you about Museveni being very fearful that he travels in the first car or the last car because he's afraid of anything happening to him. The state has been... Okay. There's going to be a new state movement that is organized by the Museveni people. What Museveni is trying to do is come back in Ugandans' hearts, because they used to love him quite a bit. When he calls himself Jaja, he thinks that we should all try to believe like we know our judges behave towards us, like they love us, they care for us. So there is a movement that he has created that the military and the police are aware of. They're going to go on and attack or try to form different groups, and pretend to try to set up a strike in the city of Kampala, and then they're going to get caught or the police will get wind of it and try to act as if they're stabilizing the circumstances by calling them, and SFCs calling Museveni saying, hey, President, we have some people here that are planning to strike. They're disgruntled youth. Could you please meet with them and talk with them? So Museveni will meet them on live TV to try to show to the rest of Ugandans that he's still on the Ugandans or Ugandan people's side. But look out for that, because it's going to be fake. If Museveni can keep people like Eddie Mutwe, Waiswa Mufumbiro, Akirewo Chivumbi, and in fact, yesterday he arrested the whole electoral committee of, what do they call them? The elections, I'll get to that. If Museveni can arrest, detain, and maintain people like the opposition youth, like the Eddie Mutwes, for close to 8 months, it's coming to a year, for a crime they never committed or intended to commit, just because they support or protect or were bodyguards of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Any Ugandan youth who believes that Museveni is on their side has lost their mind. Okay? Don't believe it. He's just trying to act as if he's harmonizing things. He's afraid that during the swearing-in ceremony, he doesn't want to have any disgruntled youths. He's trying to calm circumstances around everywhere to try to look like everything is calm, like he is legitimately chosen to be the president of Uganda. But we all know that Museveni stole His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's vote, and he's not the legitimate president of Uganda, okay? There's a new religion that is coming up that apparently he's going to craft. Museveni is going to craft a whole new religion to try to divert attention from His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. It's going to come up with extremely weird and ridiculous beliefs that will throw everybody off just because he wants to divert attention from people trying to convene to try to stop his swearing-in ceremony, because he still thinks he's going to swear in. But many suspect that we won't even arrive at a swearing-in before this government is over and gone. Museveni himself knows that. So in all efforts to try to create diversion, he's going to come up with some ridiculous religion. I heard that something that's in the media today, which I'll get to, is about him suggesting that Sharia law or the law of Islam be the constitution officially instead of the constitution that we currently have in Uganda. There's no country that operates on both. And that's the reason why you see countries that are primarily Muslim struggle with having a Christian community, because both cannot exist at once as a national law that governs lives of people of the day to day. So when that happens, I don't know if that's linked to that time, because this is from yesterday, while today's news says differently about the Sharia law, which I'll get to that, okay? There's going to be a new, who remembers when Hyundai was a prize-winning activity in Uganda, whereby people who had certain skills, or people who, it was sort of like a lottery, okay? Something like a lottery is coming to Uganda, obviously set up by Museveni. The way that this is going to work is that he's going to create a WhatsApp group where people who have certain skills can audition and send their skills to them, and then they'll choose certain skills that they will, award a certain amount of money every so often. This is very similar to PDM. This is similar to the SACCOS thing. There's nothing that Museveni brings to Ugandans to really improve their life. This is going to be one of those things where people are going to be cheated. They may even ask for your money before you sign up for it. Eventually, you get frustrated, or this is only to divert attention from having youth focus on trying to fight for their win. Okay? We are effortlessly trying to win our presidency, which we already did, and Museveni took away. We're trying to instill our presidency, and so we don't want any distractions from Museveni and all of that. Okay? All of Museveni's diaspora apologists are not answering his phones. He's calling them. I understand yesterday he placed about 5 phone calls to the different apologists that he has, including obviously the lobbyists that he has. People are not responding to him. They're not answering his calls. At this time, at this point, Museveni is not anyone that anybody wants to associate with or be known to associate with, because you hang out with Museveni or you spend time or associate with Museveni at your own risk, because you are easily able to be pinned to his efforts in whatever else that we're reporting to the EU or the UN or all those international bodies like the Human Rights UNHCR. He made 5 calls to his spies. They did not respond. And so he's very frustrated because he feels betrayed. Museveni feels betrayed by the Rwandese community. He's betrayed by his own family. He's betrayed by the government that he put together, the people that he pulled into his government. He's betrayed by the military. He's betrayed by the police. He's betrayed by people who he has supported. He's betrayed by even people whom Museveni sent abroad on scholarships and awarded them positions. ambassadorial positions he's betrayed by. Okay? People like the Mpugas, Museveni invested quite a bit of money in. He feels betrayed because recently he called Mpuga and asked him if he can help him try to find out where Bobby Wine is using his party and whatever the case might be. And Mpuga said, you know, man, I am the most hated person in Uganda at this point. In fact, he says, when you swear in, if you do, get me an ambassadorial position, let me leave the country, you know. So Museveni has failed to register legitimacy anywhere abroad or in Uganda or even to the neighboring countries, to the countries that he thought he was fair and square with. Suluhu says, you know what, I have a lot of headache. I cannot take on your headache as well. Let me try to fight mine as you fight yours, okay? Because there is a report that has been submitted to the Commonwealth that includes what Suluhu did during the elections last year, during her presidential elections. As you know, she swore herself in. She claims she won by 95%. That's obviously not true. Several people were killed, more than was documented by her government. But there was raw footage everywhere that was sent out, that was fed to different organizations. In fact, the journalist from Kenya was one of the people who collected a lot of documentaries or reports from local Tanzanians and were able to compile a report. And so they came up with a resolution that this report has to be paid attention to and quickly so that Tanzania can get some relief. Same thing with Uganda. Even though he thinks that the U.S. and other countries are focused on Iran, Iran war is just between a few countries. It doesn't stop the other countries in the West, like the EU or the ICC, from performing what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of reports are coming out. That one about Sudan was only in March last year. It's already on the front end. It links Museveni to it. Kagame, obviously M23, he's throwing that at Museveni. So when something does come down at Museveni, it'll be final. You know, and so they're working towards it. So let's all continue to work and see what we can do to get some relief for our country. Museveni is quite mad. In fact, I understand he has cried, which you can't imagine. None of us can imagine Museveni cries because he has made all of us cry a lot, okay? He was reported speaking Kinyarwanda and saying and swearing. You know, he says he may not even swear in. He may just give up and walk away. Museveni at this point feels like he can kill himself and let everybody struggle on their own because he feels like as much as he's trying to hold the glue of the country together, his people are betraying him and causing him to even fail further, okay? He's very mad, and they say that the security team around him says that at some point he's going to hurt somebody. He's going to hurt his own family members because he's very, 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 very upset. He has invited all the IT people that he sent to go and locate where, yes, Cosmas, thank you, Larry Madowo, yes, that's the journalist from CNN who captured a lot of what happened in Tanzania during the elections and shared it and helped create this report, okay? Museveni has invited all the IT specialists who he asked to go and find Lumbuye and ASP, Asima Willie Bible and Politics. I actually work very, very closely with ASP, Asima Willie Bible and Politics. I have followed him for several years now, and his information is 100% true all the time. I trust in his resources. If I must share something that comes from him, I have no doubt. So we work quite closely, actually, to bring you on this information. I do bring it out in English, and he does the one in Luganda. So these IT people that Museveni has paid up quite a bit of money to come and try to capture Lumbuye, take down their pages or take down their YouTube and so on. By the way, I'll be on YouTube and Facebook in the next couple of days. I just got my YouTube live access approved. So these people, the IT guys that were sent, have said that it is better for them to be in those countries like Qatar, where one of them is, and Turkey, where the other one is. I'm not going to, go figure. They want to go to those countries. They've already been funded. Museveni has asked his people to give money to these IT people who are going to be going into Qatar. If you do remember when Lumbuye was caught or caught by the military in Turkey. We fought quite hard to get him released, and so we're praying this will not happen, but if it does, they are quite protected, actually, that I don't think this is going to work for them. And in any case, it takes a few seconds to create a new page. So if they try it, we can always be back. They will be back, okay? Museveni has ordered that there be no kiosks in areas where he travels, anywhere where there's a road. He doesn't want any gatherings, doesn't want any people walking, doesn't want any businesses going on. He basically wants a dead road when he travels. Museveni wants to travel without anybody else on the road. So you're going to see a lot of businesses taken away from the roadside. This is a good sign for people who feel like they can't struggle for change because they have to fight or try to get school fees for their children or whatever the case may be, because now he's coming down to you, okay? We must all sing the same song. We must all sing the same chorus in order to achieve change in Uganda. If you excuse yourself from the struggle, you are really putting yourself in further danger, okay? M23s are already in Sudan. They're on the ground. They're stealing cows and killing people. Seriously. Okay? Remember when I said they're going to take part of Sudan, take part of Uganda, and take part of Congo? The report from today, March 8th, states that the M23 people who we talked about coming into Sudan and try to close the border and come into northern Uganda and kill people as well, they are already doing that in South Sudan. Okay, so the war has already started. In fact, at the time that this was in the works, Balaam Barugahara, who is the minister of youth or something like that, and children, he has a radio station in South Sudan where his goal to be there is to hoodwink or share false information, divert people from attention from what's going on, and try to de-escalate if in case there is any news or media about what's happening, the killings of local South Sudanese begins to come out in the media. His news is supposed to be the one that is only listened to. That means they're going to suppress other media. SS24 was able to come up with that news, but it is a struggle because Salva Kiir is on the side of Museveni, and the radio station that is the loudest in Sudan, or the mainstream radio, is Balaam Barugahara's radio. He's quite actively in South Sudan, and his media and radio is the one leading with misleading information to divert South Sudanese from listening to what is truly happening to them. There was a celebration of New Vision, 40 years. It was arranged by Museveni, but because Museveni no longer, he fears for having people know that he's going to be in a certain place because most people won't show up. He decided to fund and prepare for this event, but was not able to turn up because of the floods in Kampala. This celebration was supposed to be where Museveni will appear for a picture so that he looks like he's legitimate, and that he is loved by Ugandans. This was one of the photo op opportunities, but it never happened because of the floods that happened in the city, in Uganda. Okay. They were also supposed to switch off electricity at some point if that event was to go on as planned for Museveni, but it never did. So thank goodness he did not attend, because his goal is to look legitimate and look like he is elected by Ugandans and for Ugandans. There is a lady who's called Namale. She's in the U.S. military. I feel like some of the things that she's doing are not acceptable to be done in U.S. uniform. I'm going to find out. Apparently, she's Museveni's, she's a state agent that is employed or hired by Museveni to come and try to, first of all, I don't think this is possible. You know, many countries can be whatever they want, you know, in their leaderships and all of that. But in a country, a first world like the United States, whatever this Namale person was sent to do, cannot do, period. This is not a playfield where officials make decisions or influence decisions from just a relationship with somebody, or because you look a certain way. You know, the way they push their Rwandese women, it doesn't happen here this way. So in as much as they're trying to do this like they do it locally in Uganda, it's not going to work. So she's apparently a spy that's sent by Museveni, and Museveni has sent quite a few of these on scholarships to come into the U.S. and also promote them to get them into the U.S. military and all of that, to try to destabilize the U.S. military and police. I say sorry because I don't think this can happen, but I'm also going to get this where it should be, okay? I'm going to send this information to where it should be and have some of the officials look into these individuals and see what they can do about them. But I highly doubt she has that much influence, this Namale person, because I watched a video where she was dancing a certain way inappropriately in a U.S. military uniform. You know, if you're going to do certain things, you're not supposed to be in U.S. military uniform. That in itself is a good report to share with whoever her commander is to get her in some big trouble. So I say we don't worry about that, but you never know. Kagame, I understand, has had sanctions against his family, his government, and obviously some Rwandese nationals. You have seen all these. It's not a surprise. This message goes on to Buganda. Anybody with relations or access to Owechitiibwa Daniel Mulika. He's a very outspoken, respectable Buganda former Katikiro. I understand Museveni and Mayiga want to get rid of him through an assassination of some sort. So please, if you have access to Mr. or Owechitiibwa Daniel Mulika, ask him to avoid interviews. I understand he could be poisoned through microphones or speakers or whatever they'll use to interview him, or even the people interviewing him could have other means to act on what they've been sent to do by Museveni. Okay? Museveni is thinking about speaking to opposition bloggers personally. I understand he wants to make phone calls to individual bloggers such as Peng Peng and talk to them and try to convince them to not be against him. So I'm calling them opposition leaders because they normally speak against Museveni. Okay? He made a reference to speaking to Peng Peng. We'll see how far that goes. So if we see him change his language, then you might know that it's possible he has done that. With the floods in Kampala, as you know, Ham Chigundu is Museveni's agent. He owns or acts as the owner of certain assets that are Museveni's in exchange for deals to do certain things for Museveni. One of them was to try to create a better water diversion in Kampala so that the floods would not rise again. But apparently with the floods that happened yesterday, Museveni is very upset. Museveni has labeled Ham Chigundu as an enemy because when he paid him to go, and I understand he was paid fully, to give this funds to the engineers who are fixing the water system in that area that flooded, he did not pay them. So Museveni feels like Ham is sabotaging him in his government, so he has labeled him an enemy, and he has asked him with a lot of anger to make sure that he fixes. Sorry about that. I think I lost my connection. Anyways, I was talking about Ham Chigundu. Museveni blames him for causing the floods in Kampala because he was paid to be able to stop the flooding or prepare in better ways for the floods. Museveni has labeled him an enemy of his. The other thing is Ham Chigundu now is obviously in a panic because with Museveni labeling him an enemy, it means any time he's going to order his disappearance or something like that. So he has paid up the media apologists to try to speak about floods and just in general and compare it to other regions of the world that are going through floods. But you all know that the floods in Kampala, especially that area in Kampala, are due to them being built, those assets or those real estate being built in the wrong place. But because they are Museveni's assets and Salim Saleh's assets, they do whatever they want. They build wherever they want. So these floods are going to be compared to Kenya and the rest of the world, just to normalize the fact that these areas are flooding. But we know that it is due to the poor handling of what needed to be done that caused the floods to come up. Salim Saleh is not fooled by him. Salim Saleh says it is indeed his fault, that he should have done a better job than that. I mentioned earlier that Uganda, Museveni is proposing religious wars, and this means the wars are going to be between Christians and Muslims. That's his main target. Today in the news, you heard that Museveni wants to introduce Muslim courts. They call them Qadi courts, okay? That means the rulings in these courts are going to be via Sharia law. This is a dangerous move because religious wars are caused by antagonizing beliefs, okay? Because let's say Museveni wants Sharia law to be applied. Our country cannot be run on two constitutions. We can't have the Sharia law. We can't also have the constitution. Remember, Muslim law or Muslims where they're primarily Sharia law, Christianity does not freely exist, okay? This is an example in the wars that are currently happening at this point. You have seen that it's a difference in ideas and ideologies that are causing conflicts. I don't want to comment on the big wars that are happening now, but you can tell that it's truly because of difference of opinion. Even if those are happening alongside different borders, imagine within the same country. Museveni wants to divert attention from him so that we're not focused on him. So we're focused on fighting and biting each other. His example of a successful governance of a country in religious war is Nigeria. Museveni says, how come that old man in Nigeria exists as a president? He says it is true because that gentleman festers religious wars, promotes religious wars. That is why Nigerians focus on fighting themselves while he stands alone and looks ridiculous, but stays president, okay? So soon there's going to be Qadi courts that will be, Museveni wants them to exist alone in the country. This will make Uganda then a Muslim country, because the fact that Museveni has lost a lot of support from other countries, he feels like he's making headway with Muslim countries. So he wants to try to promote that, even if he's not a Muslim, and Museveni really doesn't care about Muslims. As I mentioned in a few of my videos, Museveni, every prisoner that's Muslim that he captures, he has fed them pork intentionally. And when Muslims break their fast and he calls the leaders or Muslim leaders, sorry, not church leaders, when he invites the Muslim leaders to State House to break their final fast to end their fasting period, Museveni actually feeds them with pork. So in many ways he has humiliated Muslims, and he despises Muslims. When he brings something like this, obviously you know that this is not anything to benefit the Muslim community in any case, like anything else that he introduces, okay? There's going to be things like, if you have a neighbor who's Muslim and you're a Christian and you're cooking pork, you know, that in itself is a conflict, okay? If you go to court and you commit a crime, how does that get adjudicated? Is it going to be in the courts of law, or is it going to be in the Qadi courts? Okay, so there's going to be a lot of arguments about what goes where. Where is the church supposed to be located? Where is it appropriate to be located? Can Ugandans then wear pigs or not? Can non-Muslims have any holidays? Is Friday then going to be a public holiday? You know, this is not because I personally hate Muslims. In fact, I respect Islam and Muslims. I have very good friends who are Muslim. One of the things I respect most about Islam is their fasting period. I have not seen another group that does a whole month of a fasting period and honor their God like they do. So much respect for that, but I feel like Uganda has been peaceful the way it is. We don't have to choose one thing over the other. We can both coexist. Museveni is trying to break that so that we focus on fighting each other instead of promoting and living peacefully with one another. Sharia law, when he introduces it, is going to cause chaos, but obviously that is what he's trying to do. Okay? Museveni obviously sees that Bobby Wine is coming to power. As I mentioned earlier, every day, whatever we do, whatever we see, is moving us closer to freedom, to His Excellency taking over the seat. Museveni himself has said it many times. He does see Bobby Wine coming into power. But Museveni wants to leave the government torn apart. He wants Ugandans completely destroyed before he leaves power to His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. He wants the relationship between Ugandans and Arabs, or the Arab world, or the Muslims, completely in tatters. The reason why he wants to introduce Sharia law is so that Sharia law fights with the Constitution. But as you know, His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu loves everybody, okay? We as Ugandans, in our struggle, we have every individual in Uganda coming together because we share the same problems, the same successes. We love and care for one another. Museveni wants to go out the door with a major distraction on this. But let's stay strong, let's stay focused, let's continue to love each other, continue to fight for the same thing, because we know and we believe that together we are strong. Together we are better as a people. Okay? Together we can succeed. Lastly, I want to talk about the ghetto structures that were promoted by Damulida to go on and steal license plates from vehicles to cause instability in Kampala. Kaihura, Damulida, Museveni, obviously, Salim Saleh, to try to cause instability within the city areas, especially the trading areas. I understand those people in the ghetto structures have not been paid, so they're furious. Museveni's government lacks funds because he got a lot of money in Congo trying to save, I don't know, M23, this, that. All of his stories everywhere that earned him some sort of donations. President Trump cutting U.S. aid to Uganda. All the wars stopping. Evacuation from Somalia. You know, the U.S. said, you know, get out of Somalia and go back home because your work here is done. Whatever it is that he was doing is done. So all of those paying areas have been cut. And so he has no money, but still makes those big promises. So among his things that these kids, the youth, the ghetto youth have decided to do, in fact, Damulida is in danger because if these guys don't get their money, they're probably going to do something to him. So the ghetto structures have now resorted to taking license plates from the government vehicles, police vehicles, private vehicles. They're stealing vehicles because they're furious. They weren't paid. Now the hunt has gone the other way because now Damulida wants to hunt them and put them in and lock them up for stealing all of these items. But remember, like I said, Museveni does not do anything for the benefit of Ugandans. The sooner we learn that, the earlier, the better, because then we don't fall prey to all of these things that he's trying to do to legitimize himself. Museveni stole our election. Museveni stole our win. Kyagulanyi Ssentamu won the election by 71%. But Museveni, with the help of Byabakama, stole the election. Every effort Museveni puts in to try to show love to the youth or Nupe or people of Uganda, please do not believe him. Don't trust him, because all he's trying to do is to hoodwink the Western world that he was indeed the elected president of Uganda. But that has been short-lived because he's not going to swear in. He's not going to be the president of Uganda. Watch. The time is ticking and he knows it, and that's the reason he's trying to destroy the government so that he leaves His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu in tatters. People of northern Uganda, beware. People of South Sudan, beware. I'll try to share those facts with some people in South Sudan. People of the parts of Congo that link South Sudan with northern Uganda and that triangle, that area where they're trying to capture, be aware. But Museveni is already performing in South Sudan. M23 people are already there and attacking and killing people and stealing cattle from there. So get the message out. Let's share as much as possible. I will see you again tomorrow. I love you very, very much. Let's stay together, stick together, love one another. Don't fall for those diversions. Don't fall for religious wars. We love our Muslim brothers. We love our Christians. We love everybody, okay? Let's not fall for what Museveni is trying to stage and cause us to divide each other and fight each other. We love each other as Ugandans. We love peace. And we love everybody who loves Uganda. I love you and leave you. Take care. Have a great evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.